afternoon, evening, depending on where you may be. Happy Friday. I'm Mike DiLisio, and I am happy to be here for today's Q&A session. Hopefully everything is coming through loud and clear. I'm taking a look at the live chat here. The live chat has already been remarkably active. This is something that I have noticed and have remarked upon with other people here at the studio, how incredibly active our live chats are. They'll be on there for hours before we actually get started. So I'm seeing a lot of hellos from people, and that's a good sign. That means that you can see me. If you're saying hello, I'm going to make the bold assumption that I'm actually coming through the camera, and so that is good. And I'm looking forward to chatting with all of you here today. I see a lot of the usual suspects, so to speak, in the live chat. Audio and video is great, says Tommy Miller. Let's see if I can get the, okay, so I'm going to move this around. We're going to go right here. How about that? Audio and video is great. Thank you, Tommy. So, you've got questions. I've got answers. That's what I promised. I don't know if the answers are going to be satisfactory, entertaining, interesting. I make no promises that will be the case. But I'm going to do my darndest, shall we? So, all of our introductions are out of the way, are they not? So let's get to the questions. Let's see here if we've got some questions from the chat, and I'll do my best, as I said, to answer those. So let's see here. Okay. Oh, okay. So, Kenton asks, yes, Kenton, yeah, we'll keep it down here. What is your favorite faction to play in as in Root? So I think my gut is telling me that my favorite faction to play is the Moles right now. I really, really love playing as the Moles. In the base box, the base 4 factions, well, depending, I mean, you've got Vagabond in there too. I like the Woodland Alliance there. But they're all, they all have their pluses and minuses. But I think my favorite are the Moles. They're a power faction, kind of like the Cats are. They start in a position of strength, but I think that they can do a little bit more kind of nuanced actions. I like the burrowing. I like having kind of your own little burrow over there that you're kind of protected from everybody else. I love being able to get those special abilities when you get the envoys out there. So it's probably going to be the Moles. I love both of those factions. I like the Crows too, the Corvid conspiracy. Those are really good factions. The one that I have the hardest time with is probably the Otters, which stinks because I love Otters and I would love to play those more often, but I don't feel like I'm very good at playing the Otters. I think that faction depends on the other people at the table a lot, more so than the other factions. Like, you kind of depend on other people to buy your stuff. So not my least favorite, but I feel the least confident playing as the Otters in Root. All right. Love getting a Root question out of the way. Root is a game that just keeps growing in my estimation, and I'm very excited about Oath, which is kind of the next big game coming from the same designer, Cole Worley. And I played an early version of Oath. No one asked, but I'm talking about it anyway. I played an early version of Oath on Tabletop Simulator. And Tabletop Simulator for me is very difficult for me to assess whether I'm going to like a game or not, because so much of me enjoying a game is the physical kind of interaction with the people and with the pieces. Yes, even as a solo gamer, yes, I like the interaction with other people. But so I really enjoyed kind of what it was doing, but I know that the design has changed a bit since I've played it, and I know it's going to be different when I get the actual physical components in front of me, because I've seen pictures. Some people, some parts of the world have already received Oath, and man, does it look gorgeous. Gorgeous! Looking forward to that. Okay. Oh, Jose, knows that I am a Miami Dolphins fan, comes with a Dolphins question. Now, I know this isn't board game related, so I won't spend long on it. I don't want to bore people, but Bob Greasy or Dan Marino, both fantastic, but I'm a Marino guy. I came up in the time of Marino and saw him play a number of times live, so Dan Marino. Okay. More confirmation that audio and video is looking good. Nick, some of us don't have lives, DiLisio. Look, how is being in the chat, how is being in the live chat and interacting with some of the greatest people on the planet a sign of not having a life? I think this is a great way to live your life. I don't think that that's something to talk down upon. You should feel good about being in the chat. Cameron, I like the red t-shirt. Thank you. This is a Winter Spectacular t-shirt. Yeah, I kind of liked the juxtaposition of the red with the kind of ice theme that we had going on. I thought it was a nice kind of I don't know, contrast, perhaps. Antoine, let me move this over a little bit so it gets more centered here. Have you tried Marvel United solo yet? Antoine is really enjoying it solo. Yes, I have. A lot, actually. In preparation, I was in the middle of saying preparation, and then I changed my mind and wanted to say preparing, and so that didn't work out well. But in preparation for the Foursquare review that's coming up soon, I want to say later this week, where we discussed Marvel United with all of the expansions. We're kind of revisiting the game after the new stuff has come in. I played through every one of the expansion boxes, all of the challenges. So the Secret Identity challenge in the Spider-Verse box and the Sinister Six kind of mode. I played through all of those solo, and I did it using the Shield solo mode, which if you're not familiar, the way that works is that you're going to play with 3 characters, and you take the decks of all 3 characters, you shuffle them all together, and that is your shared deck. And the only difference is that, well, there's a couple of differences. One is that you begin with 5 cards rather than 3, and if you ever get KO'd in the Shield mode at all, you've lost. And so that's different than in the standard game. So Z he's said that he doesn't really like the Shield solo mode. He prefers, if he's going to play it solo, to just play it two-handed, solo two-handed or three-handed, or you could even play it solo four-handed if you wanted to. I go back and forth. I understand where Z is coming from. The Shield mode can be a little bit, it doesn't always interact great with all of the kind of abilities. There are some edge cases that can come up as a result of having it play out the way the Shield mode plays. But my thing is, if you don't like that mode, it's a pure co-op. It doesn't matter. You can play it solo, like I said, two-handed, three-handed. So I am enjoying it solo. I've enjoyed playing it multiplayer, co-op. I've just enjoyed the game quite a bit without giving away too much from our Four Squares review. My goodness here. This is, wow. JB Gandalf. Is this self-serving, putting this question up here? Absolutely. Your joining the Dice Tower definitely raised the overall intelligence, culture, and stud factor, is that a thing, of the team. But which one would you say was your greatest impact? Well, I tell you, this is tough. When looking at my many positive attributes, how do I choose just one to go with? First of all, this is very, very kind of you to say. I don't, I'm not taking it seriously, although if you're paying me a compliment, I will accept that with as much grace as I possibly can. I am just so happy to be a part of a great group of people. I don't know what I bring. I think we all bring different things. I'm not sure quite what my niche is, perhaps, but if people like anything that I add, then I'm happy with that. Don't know what it would be for sure. Lots of Marvel United questions. Adam, who's your favorite character to play in Marvel United? Well, I want to just first of all say I have not played as all the characters yet. There's so many of them. I've played through all of the boxes, but I haven't played through all the characters yet. Of the ones I've played, I've really enjoyed Ghost Rider and Squirrel Girl and Quicksilver. Those were really fun. Who else? I liked Thor just because he was so strong with his 3 Mjolnir cards. So that's what I would go with just off the top of my head. This is an interesting question, Matt. Where was I when Wham broke up? First of all, they broke up? I didn't. Wow. So there's no more Wham, huh? No, I don't know. I have no idea where I was when Wham broke up. I don't remember what year Wham broke up. Couldn't tell you. Sorry. Monica asks, how much do you solo game and why do you solo game? I'm going to try to keep this, not that this question is not appreciated or important, but I don't want to go too deep into it because I've kind of covered this in a couple of places. So I solo game, I would say right now, probably, it's safe to say weekly. I try to play, solo at least once a week, at least every 2 weeks. I think that's very safe to say. And as far as a ratio of solo gaming to multiplayer gaming, right now it's probably at 60-40 multiplayer to solo. Obviously, with this job, I have an opportunity to game with others. So probably in that range, 60-40. Every week or so, I try to play some. Why I solo game is it started out as a situation where I had games on my shelf that were not getting played. This was a number of years ago. And I was starting to get a little anxiety about building up games that were not getting played. And I started to realize, a lot of these say you can play solo. And I really hadn't even looked into it. And started to play a couple of them, really, really enjoyed it. It alleviated some of that anxiety of having games on the shelf that weren't getting played. And then as I started to do it, I just realized that for certain types of experiences that I enjoy in board gaming, the kind of the puzzle element, that's one aspect of board gaming that I like, is kind of the puzzly aspect of it. For that, solo gaming does a great job of scratching that itch, because many solo games are kind of centered around a puzzle, whether they're cooperative games or just solitaire variants or just pure solo games. Many of them, I would say most of them, kind of lean towards the puzzle aspect, and I do like that. It's not the only type of game I like, but I think it works well in the solo sphere. Tommy Miller asks, has Socks found a home yet? Yes, thankfully, a splendid person. I don't want to say, because I don't know if they want to make it public necessarily, but yes, we have found a home for Socks, and right now, Socks is currently being kind of fostered at my house with my wife and I, with our 2 cats, his siblings, Pippin and Raven, and we've gotten him to the vet, and he's been fixed and gotten all of his initial shots, and we're just kind of getting him used to indoor living, getting him used to being around other cats, because even though they're his siblings, they don't remember each other. And so it's going very, very well so far, I'm happy to say. And I am very, very optimistic that Socks is going to have a fantastic, fantastic life like his siblings, I like to think, do. Rachael Barrett, what subject did you teach? Well, I taught high school social studies, so most of the time I was teaching, most of my classes during the last like 5 years was AP World History, Advanced Placement World History. That was where most of my classes were set in. But I also, throughout the years of teaching social studies, I taught U.S. history. I also taught sociology pretty much every year that I taught. I taught at least one section of sociology because I love teaching it so much. So U.S. history, world history, AP world history, sociology, those were the biggies that I taught. Greetings from Uruguay. Awesome. That is very, very, very cool. That's one of my favorite things, is seeing people from all over the world here. So greetings to you. Okay, so Michael Hansen, and I'm putting this question up here, even though you're going to see that my answer is going to be woefully insufficient, just because I don't want you to think I'm skipping and ignoring. I'm in the mood for a solo campaign tonight. Should I go for the First Martians campaign or the Imperial Settlers campaign? Well, why it's going to be inadequate is that I have not played the campaign for either. I've actually never played First Martians. I don't know that I will. If somebody were to offer to play, I probably wouldn't turn it down, although it doesn't really appeal to me. I think I would just rather play Robinson Crusoe. But I don't know. Under the right circumstances, I might try it out. Imperial Settlers I've played and have enjoyed quite a bit, but I've not played it in the campaign mode, although I know that they've done a really good job of continuing to add to that. So I guess if I were going to choose one, I would go with Imperial Settlers, only because I'm familiar with that game more than I am with First Martians. I know it's based kind of off of the Robinson Crusoe engine, but I can't really speak to it, so I wouldn't want to recommend it. Okay, well, Terrier Halo, I had a feeling that based on the pre-going live chat discussion, I felt like the top 50 solo games intro would be a topic of discussion. So this is the first one I saw here, and so here we go. Do you feel like you have set the bar too high with your intro to the top 50 solo games? I'm assuming that's what you mean, Terrier. Do you think anyone else will be able to match it? Well, first of all, I think that there have been fantastic intro videos from all of the Dice Tower people, both past and present. So I'm happy if I'm even in the same conversation. And if I haven't made it clear before, hopefully I have, I want to make it clear here that this was a collaboration. This intro video was a collaboration between myself and Chris Yee. And my main contribution was let's say the creative vision to lean into the stupid. I knew I wanted it to be something that was dumb. And Chris obviously came through with a fantastic song. You know, Chris wrote the song and sang the song, and it was a lot of fun. I had an idea, like the Mike DiLisio Bravissimo. That was something that I had rolling around in my head, and I kind of, when Chris offered to write the song for this, I kind of threw around this idea of that Mike DiLisio Bravissimo, and I gave him an idea of maybe the type of music that I would gravitate towards. And then Chris took that and ran with it and did a fantastic job. And as far as the actual content of it, it was really kind of last minute. I was almost thinking, well, how far do I want to go into this? Do I really want to make it this kind of, I don't know. I don't even know what to call it. It was making fun of memes, right? Old memes. And Chris was like, oh yeah, we got to do it. And I think Chris came up with the idea of making, having fun with that Drake meme. And I don't remember who came up with the idea of the phone conversation at the beginning. But anyway, it was fun. It was really kind of done almost last minute. Like, I was going back and forth on whether I wanted to try to do that, and so it was fun. there's these top 50 solo videos. There are 5 of them in groups of 10. They're getting re-uploaded, actually, just kind of on their own. They're going up next week, Tuesday through Saturday, so you get another chance if you want to watch that intro video again on all of those. So, Loopy asks, what did you think about your appearance on the Board Games Snobs podcast? I really enjoyed it. Well, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and thanks for listening. Now, the truth of the matter is, I, of course, remember being on the podcast, but I don't remember exactly what I spoke about because, honestly, a lot of this stuff bleeds together because they've been on the Sporadically Bored podcast, the one I do with myself and Dan Hughes. They've been on there before, and we're all kind of interconnected. There's these kind of podcasts that are kind of simpatico in maybe, I don't know, mindset, and the Board Game Snobs is one of them. And so I believe I talked a little bit about teaching there and probably solo gaming. I always get questions about solo gaming. The Board Game Snobs are kind of kindred spirits, I suppose, with the Sporadically Bored podcast. They actually, I have to admit, they were doing it first, right? Their podcast came before ours. I will say, I had not listened. I was not familiar with the Board Game Snobs podcast before Dan clued me into them, and we had been doing Sporadically Bored for a while. So it was lovely to be on, and they are lovely individuals. Cameron Zafar. Hey, Cameron, how you doing? When's the review for Merchant's Cove coming out? I'm not sure. We actually just got the game in recently. I did an unboxing, which has not gone up yet. I may actually push that further in the queue to get it up a little closer. I did an unboxing for the core box, and then I have since, I'm the only one that's played it so far. I've played solo with one of the characters. So Merchant's Cove, for those of you that are not aware, it was on my top 10 anticipated games of 2021. I'm actually backing it on Kickstarter. The copy we have here is an earlier review copy. It's not my personal copy. I'm still waiting on that. But it's an asymmetrical game, a highly asymmetrical Euro game, where the idea is that you are playing as kind of fantastical merchants in a fantasy world. And everybody is trying to produce goods and then sell goods to customers that are coming on boats to this cove that you all work at. But kind of the hook is that depending on which character you play, you're going to have a different central mechanism that drives your actions. There are, I believe, 2 core actions that no matter what character you play are available to everybody. You can draft characters, so that's something that everybody can do. That's one of the one of the actions you can do, and then there's one other one I can't remember. But beyond that, depending on what character you play, you're going to have different rules. So I played as the alchemist, and his kind of mechanism was drawing these marbles out of a little decanter, and these marbles represented different elixirs that you would brew. So you're basically selling potions to customers. And so that plays very differently than the blacksmith, who's going to have dice. And that plays differently from the captain, who's got a spinner. And I haven't even actually looked at all of the different roles. And there are expansion roles that add even other mechanisms to the game. So the review I can't say, because I'm sure Tom's going to want to play, and who knows what type of a review. I will say I'm very, very likely to do a solo review, but I want to play through at least all of the characters before I do that, because I feel like this is the type of game that you want to have a few games in, because it's not a typical type of a Euro game, right? So that's a very convoluted way of saying I don't know yet. I'm not sure. Elvis, Beatles, or Johnny Cash? Of the 3, I would say the Beatles. I'm not a huge country music fan. I know Elvis is rock and roll, but he also strays into the country world. So, of the three, I do like the Beatles. I appreciate all of them, and I'm familiar with all of them, but. Frankendice asks, what do you think about the new Hero Quest? Do you think I'm better off getting the original, which, in your opinion, has better art? You know, I don't have a lot of history with Hero Quest. I'm familiar with it. I kind of know that it's a game that has heavy nostalgia for a lot of gamers. I didn't play Hero Quest originally, so I don't have a strong opinion about this. I know Tom has talked about it a bit. I think that, you know, Tom would probably have more of a detailed answer that he would give to you on this. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. If you can find the original for a reasonable price, and maybe that's happening now that the new one is imminent, maybe people are selling off their old edition, you know, why not? I mean, I don't know if they're making a lot of changes. That's the other thing, is since I'm not backing it, I haven't really researched it. So I don't know if the changes they're making are significant, or if there even are changes that are being made. So I don't know. I would say if you see it for a good price, go for it. Favorite British board game content creator. This is unfair, I suppose, because I have a lot of favorite British board game. I'm not saying your question is unfair. I'm just saying that I feel like I'm going to upset people. There are many fantastic British board game content creators. I hesitate to even mention some because, you know, then you have the crime of omission. But you know, I have to shout out Dan Hughes because I work with Dan in my podcast. As much as he is a curmudgeon, an insufferable curmudgeon with questionable taste in just about everything, I do have a lot of fondness for Dan and what he creates, and especially Dan with Cora. I love watching their stuff. Matthew Jude is a huge, you know, I have a lot of appreciation for what he does. Yeah, I've got to stop. Lots of great content creators out there. Bonnie asks, why are you the chat's favorite Dice Tower player during live plays? Well, is that true? I don't know. I'm not sure if we're working under a true premise here. Am I the chat's favorite Dice Tower player? I do feel like, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's the case. I feel like sometimes there's this perception that I've seen, and other people in the studio have seen, that I get picked on. I don't think that's true. Just to be very, very clear, nobody here really goes at other people. You know what I mean? If it's a very competitive game with a lot of negotiation, we'll play into that stuff, right? And we'll play it up, especially for a live play when you know, we're trying to be as entertaining and engaging as possible. We'll play that stuff up. And I think that one thing that maybe has happened is that I will kind of lean into this idea of being, you know, the sad sack put upon. Oh, you know, you're coming after me again. And I think sometimes people maybe take that seriously. And I have to be careful in that sense that I don't present myself as somebody who really is getting their feelings hurt. Because that can be, you know, that can be uncomfortable, you know, for people that are watching. Just to be clear, nobody is hurting my feelings. Nobody is picking on me. We all love playing with each other. I think that we all kind of understand that we will sometimes play into some of these roles. And maybe that's what is reflected in the chat, is like, oh, Mike, you know, can't hit a rock. Mike can't do this. Mike can't do this. Or go, Mike. I think we all have, you know, kind of our role to play. And I don't know, maybe that gets talked about in the chat. Any more close encounters of the palmetto bug kind? No, thankfully I have not seen any palmetto bugs in or around myself. Gator Dave asks, what is your go-to meal or recipe if you have to cook dinner on short notice? All right, well, it depends, Gator, on what is eligible. So if you're talking, if frozen foods are eligible, that's going to probably be, because then you're literally turning on the oven and throwing it in the oven. But I'm gonna take that out of the mix, because that, you know, if you put recipe in there, that makes me think that maybe we're talking foods that you actually have to do some type of production. All right, so pasta is always, you know, that's a simple go-to. It's very quick, very simple, especially if you're going to go with a jarred sauce. Now, as somebody who is of the Italian background, I know that jarred sauces can be very controversial in the Italian food community. But if you're going quick, some jarred sauces are quite good. Others are awful and basically are ketchup, which some people like ketchup on noodles. I'm not going to judge. I don't, but so probably pasta, or if you know, maybe grill up a chicken breast, cut that and put that over salad. That's also a quick go-to that my wife and I do that quite a bit. So probably those. Loopy asked about Merchant's Cove initial impressions. Hopefully I answered that well enough. Edge says, "Hey Mike, you've been an excellent game Sherpa for me. First of all, I like that terminology. That's cool. Many of the games on my shelf are because of you. Therefore, I am ending my nonsense quest of sending you baked goods." Thank you, Edge. I appreciate that. Who sent a package of the Cheddar Bay biscuits from Red Lobster. But yes, I'd hate for those things to go to waste. But thank you for crowning me as a Board Game Sherpa. I saw a super chat come up, and I want to say thank you. All right, now Tiago, thank you for the super chat. Thank you very, very much for the super chat. I'm not going to put it up on the screen just because there's like just very mild language, but I'm going to respond. And again, I very much appreciate the super chat. Tiago asks, Mike, what about Order from Chaos? My wife and I miss it. So Order from Chaos, I won't spend a lot of time on this, but Order from Chaos is another podcast that I do with Dan Hughes and Matthew Jude, who I also mentioned. And it is a ridiculous podcast that has nothing to do with board gaming, which you could say the same thing about Sporadically Bored, by the way. But at least this one, we come right out and say it has nothing to do with board gaming. Basically, what Order from Chaos is, it was a dumb idea, probably Dan's dumb idea, I think it was, where we take 5 things that have nothing to do with each other. Bandanas, sugar cookies, computer monitors, knitted socks, ferns. I'm just picking up things as I'm looking around. Take 5 things that have nothing to do with each other, and we put them into the Pub Meeple kind of ranking engine, and then we spend about a half hour arguing why knitted socks are better or worse than ferns, and then we come up with a definitive list. Really dumb, but it's just basically an excuse for the 3 of us to banter stupidly about nothing, and we enjoy doing it. But it's just one of those things where it's not canceled, it's not over, it's on kind of an indefinite hiatus, just because of time. Matthew is very, very busy. I'm busy. Dan is busy. like I said, we haven't given up on the idea of trying to do it again, but I'm not sure when it'll be. As a matter of fact, though, we actually are, the three of us are at least scheduled to record this Sunday for the next Sporadically Bored. So maybe we'll try to work out what we're going to do with Order from Chaos at that point. All right. I'm completely off of where I was, so that's okay. Super chat again. Oh, I'm getting ready to put on my old man specs. You almost saw it. I might put them on. I got to get over the vanity. Here we go. Here's my reading glasses, my old man specs. All right. I think I should change my handle from Edge to Edge. No one gets it right. So I thought you had said the pronunciation was like Edge, and that's why I said that. So now I'm confused. But thank you for the super chat. I was trying to get it right, but I'm okay. Here we go. Now I am going to put these on for a second because I'm trying to go back to make sure I didn't miss any. Well, I'm going to miss questions. There's just no two ways about it. We're already more than halfway in, and I'm going to try to. Wow. Thank you all for all of your fantastic questions. There's a lot, and I feel awful because I'm not going to be able to get through all of these. But I will try to skip through as much as I can. Wow. Woo, man, you guys are great. I'm just trying to find kind of where I was. There's no way I'm going to be able to get back to where I was. Okay, I'm just going to kind of skip through now and see if we can find some more stuff here. This is an interesting question, and it's coming from Riddle Me This, so I think that is apropos. In your opinion, what makes a great coworker? Well, I think the ability to communicate well is important. It's very important. Communication skills are super important. The ability to compromise and be able to share space with other people, I think is important. I think being a good listener is a good quality. I think a good work ethic helps to be a good, especially when the jobs that I've held, I've worked in retail for a number of years, post high school and working through college. And that's a type of a job where you're having to collaborate with other people. I worked in teaching. That's another job where you're having to collaborate with other people, although to some extent your classroom is your own little space. And then here at the Dice Tower, all of these are things that I think are important to these types of jobs. Being able to communicate, collaborate, listen, all of those I think are good qualities in a coworker. Do you feel like your teaching and board game store background has helped you adjust to the Dice Tower? The short answer is yes. I like to think so. I like to think that teaching helped me when I first started doing playthrough videos. Those were the first kind of things I did were the playthrough videos, the solo playthrough videos, and being able to just, present information in a way that hopefully is clear and has some sort of sense to it. Hopefully that has helped. The board game store background, I only worked maybe one day a month at the board game store, but just being in and around people and kind of seeing what the questions were that people might have, that has helped. And kind of understanding what a consumer, and I'm a consumer and I have been a consumer of board games, so I know what's important to me as a board game consumer, but it was helpful to understand and to see that other board game consumers have different needs, different questions that I might have had. So I think that helped quite a bit. Steve Fettuccine says Z is the people's wisecrack. And I love it. When he's on a roll, he's just on fire. I couldn't agree with you more. Z is one of the most genuinely funny people I've ever interacted with. He makes me laugh constantly, pretty much constantly. What is the heaviest game I like? Oh, that's interesting. It's probably going to be a Mind Clash game. I find their games very, very complex for me. I'm not a heavy gamer. I think I've just come to that conclusion. I'm more of a light to medium weight gamer. I can play heavy games. I appreciate heavy games, but they're not the ones I tend to gravitate towards the most. So probably Tricarion or Anachrony. I think Tricarion to me feels heavier than Anachrony, so I would probably go with that. I like the Gallerist. Yeah, I would probably go with one of those. Jason Dunham asks, should I pre-order the Loop? I would say that there is actually a lot of information out there now, and I'm thrilled that it's getting picked up for wider distribution because I like it a lot. Obviously, it's been on a number of my lists. I would say watch the playthrough if, this is self-serving again, but watch our playthrough, and that'll give you an idea of how the game plays. Just know that kind of version that we played is just one way. There in the base box there are variations. So I like the Loop a lot, and I'm happy to see it coming out in wider distribution. So. Do I play any instruments? Sadly, Steve, I do not. I would like to. I've toyed around with playing guitar and bass guitar, but I've never taken the time to learn it well, or even not well. I basically cannot play instruments, but I'd love to. Monica's met Willie Nelson. Wow, that's cool. That must have probably an interesting story behind that too, I would imagine. Oh, interesting. Bonnie, you asked a question that I already answered, but I hadn't seen your question. So my favorite weight for a game, my comfy zone, maybe I'll elaborate just a little bit more. First of all, weights of games, I think, there's been a lot of talk about this recently, how nebulous that can be. That I think sometimes we get hung up too much on how complex or weighty a game is. But I think my comfortable zone is medium weight games, what I call medium weight games. So something like, viticulture I would call a medium weight game, but that's to somebody else that might be light, to somebody else that might be heavy. But if you look at my top 100 games, I think most of them skew in that kind of mid-weight area. Some of them heavier, some of them lighter, but that's kind of where I'm at. I'm not a huge heavy gamer, and I'm not a huge party gamer. Those are probably the two, or a war gamer, either. So those are the kind of the outliers. For me, it's going to be the kind of the mid-weight hybrid games, Euro games. That's what I gravitate towards. Justin Smith. Hi, Mike. I'm newer to tabletop gaming and the channel, so welcome. So I'm learning the ins and outs. I've seen that you played Marvel United. Do you know if they are releasing all of the expansions? Now, I don't know exactly. From what I understand, and please don't take this as definitive because I've heard differing things. The most recent thing I've heard is that you'll be able to get all of the Marvel United stuff with the next Kickstarter for X-Men United, which is coming, I believe, next week. I believe that launches. I think that the only of the Marvel United expansions that are going to be released retail is Enter the Spider-Verse. I'm not positive about that, but that's what I've been kind of hearing and hearing through the grapevine and reading. They originally, I believe, were going to be releasing them as in retail, but I think they've changed their mind on that and are going to be releasing them now through the X-Men United Kickstarter. So, again, not definitive, but we should know soon. That's one thing I will be able to say, is that I think we should know soon what that's going to look like. Oh, I feel bad. So many questions I'm not going to be able to get to. I may have answered this one time before, so I'm gonna go quickly. I'm gonna go quickly. Taylor's trick-taking table. Hey, Mike, your sense of humor and wit is amazing. Thank you. Who is your favorite comedian? It's really tough. My gut usually goes with like Steve Martin, Richard Pryor, but there's so many fantastic comedians out there. I just love comedy in general, and so it's really hard. But Steve Martin, I don't think, is a great stand-up comic. I don't think that's his strength, even though he was kind of like a rock star in the 70s as a stand-up comedian. I don't think that's his strength. I think his strength is as a writer. I think he is a brilliant comedic writer, and that's where I kind of see his genius, what I consider to be his genius. But there's a lot of geniuses out there, comedic geniuses, in my opinion. I don't know if this is a joke here, Steve. Mike, you appear to me the most wholesome person on the Dice Tower. Really? Be honest, were you a rebel when you were younger? I don't know. I think everybody rebels to some degree or another. I'm just taken aback that to you I appear to be the most wholesome person on the Dice Tower. So, hey, I'll take it. I'll take it. If you only knew. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Interesting. Dave Geographic. If you could commission a board game designer to make you a game, who would you pick, and what themed game would you ask him or her to create? Okay, well, I've got my favorite designers. I mean, some of my favorite designers are, Shem Phillips and Jamie Stegmaier and Reiner Knizia, Kramer and Kiesling. And again, you do start doing this and you're leaving out other people. There's a lot of game designers I admire. But that being said, no game designer has 100%. Hits with me. There are some games I like and some that I don't. But I would probably love to see one of them do a post-apocalyptic themed game, because I like post-apocalyptic themes. I don't think they always get done very well. So let's say, I'm going to just pick one. Let's say I want, sure. Shem Phillips, make me a post-apocalyptic game that's outside of any of the trilogies. It would have to be, I suppose. All right, I'll go with that. Mm-hmm. See, it's the small comment box that gets me. Cameron asks, what's your favorite board gaming moment this year? Winning a cosmic encounter and carrying on playing? That may be. It's certainly up there. It's certainly up there. I really, that was a lot of fun, because I had a feeling when I chose that power that it would be very, very difficult to pull off. And I'll be honest with you, that's the main reason why I chose it. The main reason why I chose it was because I felt like, look, I took some of the pressure off of myself, because I was like, look, I'm very unlikely to win this anyway. I'm playing with very experienced players for the first time. I don't I'm going to choose this character where if I lose horribly, I'm not going to feel too bad because I can always just say, oh, well, I picked a really tough one. So I was kind of giving myself an out. And being able to pull that off and then having the silliness of continuing to play afterwards because there was such a weird edge case. And I get the feeling that it happens in Cosmic a lot, that you get these weird edge cases. So that was up there. That was definitely up there. Oh, boy. Mark asks, did the new spreadsheet help with your shoots and marbles tracking skills? It helped tremendously, and I think that it's a work in progress. It was really helpful. So a little bit of behind-the-scenes stuff. You know, when I started doing shoots and marbles things with Tom, you know, I kind of came on as the color commentator, and really I think the first time I was also writing the scores down, but I was focusing more on what I was saying and coming up with stupid puns and things like that, and trying to you know, play up that color commentator role. But now that we've got this new, remarkable, incredible track, what is happening is that we've got a multi-camera setup now. So we've got cameras all over the place. And so what I was doing was now the talking part, the color commentating part, and running one of the cameras. You know, I've been running the starting line camera and scrolling that down. So what I had been doing was, okay, getting on that camera, scrolling those while trying to talk, and then once they get to the end, doing writing the stuff down. And so what's made it nicer is that now I've got a table with the computer set up there, and it's just much easier. So I feel like my color commentating skills have taken a little bit of a hit, if they were ever there to begin with. But you know, maybe I'll be able to now put a little bit more time into that with that spreadsheet. Oh no, that was a super chat I already got there. Are there any kid-friendly introductions to deck builders yet? I'm sure there are. Isn't, I would say maybe the Harry Potter. It depends on what age group you're talking about. The Harry Potter deck builder, or maybe even more so, the Toy Story. The Toy Story deck builder would be, probably that would be where I would kind of start. Oh, and Bonnie, look at this. Look what Bonnie did. Try Harry Potter or Toy Story deck builder. Boom! Bonnie, we are simpatico. Look at that. People are making fun of my censorship. I'm just trying to be family friendly here. I understand that it's not like it's a big deal, but I'm just trying to be sensitive. Christopher asks, have you played the solo variant for Smartphone Inc.? If so, what are your impressions? If not, is this game's solo variant one you'd like to play? So I'll try to answer all of those relatively quickly, because I feel like I'm leaving a bunch of questions off, and again, I apologize for that. I've played it a number of times. I felt like the original version of Smartphone Solo was not great, where you're playing with the big map, the 5-player map. I played it. It wasn't great. It was not the best way to play the game by any means. They have since, with the new printing from Arcane Wonders, they have since released a smaller map, 2 to 3 player map. It also works very well solo. So yes, I think that it is a viable solo game with the smaller map. I still don't think it's a great solo game on that small map, because 5-player smartphone is one of my favorite experiences in general. And so I know how great that game can be, And even though it's fine as a solo game, it's not the same. It's just not the same. If you wanted to play it once in a while as a solo gamer and you have the small map, sure. But that game shines as a 5 especially, 4 is fine too. And if you're playing on the small map, 2 and 3 now is much more viable as well. Man, I'm leaning into these old man glasses here. Velderak. Hey Mike, I'm considering picking up A Feast for Odin, but I'm worried friends and family will be intimidated by it. How do you go about explaining heavier board games to such groups? This is a tough question, and let's face it, I think people are going to be potentially intimidated by seeing A Feast for Odin on the table. It's one of my favorite games. I love it. It's intimidating looking. There's a whole lot of components. It just is a lot. It's a lot. And so that game specifically, I've only taught it, I want to say, once or twice. And it's not easy. It's not easy at all. I suppose what I would do is just make sure that you're comfortable with the rules before you try to teach it to somebody. Make sure that as best as you can, that you're not having to refer to the rule book, over and over again, because that can be almost intimidating in itself. If someone's around the table and the teacher is looking at the book constantly, that can be a little bit of, oh, do they know the game? Am I going to know the game? For Feast for Odin, what I tended to do the 1 or 2 times that I've taught it, is reassure people that all of those spots on the worker placement board are not quite as overwhelming as they might appear, because they're basically strengths of different actions. So although it looks like there's all kinds of spots on the board, really there are a fewer menu of actions, and you can do those in different strengths, and that's why it looks to be so many spots there. Start with that. Explain how the economy in the game works, because that can be a little bit unintuitive as far as how your puzzle board relates to the economy. Starting with those, that's kind of how I did it, but it's a tough one. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's a tough game for me to teach. Oh, we're running out of time. We're running out of time. All right, I'm gonna scoot down towards the bottom because I'm afraid that I'm missing a bunch of questions. Eric Parker. Hi Mike, I recently got Dwellings of Eldervale and have only played with a 2-player count. What is your favorite player count? Probably 4. Probably 4. I do like it at the large player counts. Now, when you play solo, you're essentially playing a 2-player game, and I love the solo game of that. But that is just a slightly different experience. I think it's fine at 2. I have played Dwellings at 2. It scales with a smaller map and such. But I do think it's probably better at 3 to 4. I think it plays viably at all player counts, but probably 4 is my favorite. I'm kind of looking for my last couple of questions here. Sean Gillette, going to get 1. Which would you choose as a solo choice, Dwellings of Eldervale or Sleeping Gods? Now this is really tough. So if you look at my top 50 solo games, I rank Dwellings much higher than Sleeping Gods. Dwellings is my number 1 solo game. That does not mean that Sleeping Gods is not fantastic. It is. It's a fantastic game. The reason why it was farther back on my solo game list, there's twofold. Number 1, it's that I just haven't played it as much. I've played through 1 whole campaign solo. Number 2, it's that you are controlling all 9 characters as a solo player. It's not overwhelming necessarily as far as the administration, but it just is a different experience. But I would answer this question more, what type of experience are you looking for? If you're looking for a narrative, open world, Zelda Breath of the Wild feel, go with Sleeping Gods. If you are looking for a kind of a hybrid mix between Euro and Ameritrash with some kind of tableau building, if you're looking for more of that type of an experience, you go for Dwellings of Eldervale. The great answer here, Sean, is you cannot go wrong, in my opinion, either way. Both of them are fantastic games, and I think you'll be happy either way you go. All right, it's 12 o'clock, but I'm going to go with one more. You want to know if I was a rebel? I'm a rebel. I'm going to do one more. I'm going to do one more. Yeah, someone said the best way to throw me off is to do a super chat and then watch me try to find my place in line. That's exactly true. Although there are many ways to get me off track here. Okay, I'm trying to find one last question. One last question. All right. Okay, Monica, is it a deal breaker for you if the game doesn't have an official solo mode? It is sometimes for me. Okay. The short answer is no, it is not a deal breaker for me if the game doesn't have an official solo mode. I'll tell you what's more of a deal breaker for me is if it's clear to me that there's a solo mode that probably shouldn't be there, that is there. And increasingly, it's becoming more and more obvious when that's the case. I could go more into detail about that, but I won't just because of time. But I will tell you this. I personally don't think it's a good look when a solo mode is added in the last day or two of a Kickstarter campaign. Oh, we're stretch goal. We're going to develop a solo mode. You don't have a lot of confidence from me in that case. However, I do feel like publishers, designers, the board gaming industry as a whole are listening to solo gamers because they're vocal. They are very vocal. And it's becoming clear that this just opens up a market for games that maybe they didn't realize was there. However, I do want to make it very clear, as a solo gamer, as somebody that focuses their reviews, not exclusively, but focuses their reviews on solo games, it's much more important to me that solo games are viable, that they actually are developed, especially if you can make them a part of the organic development process of the game from the beginning. Don't tack it on at the beginning. Don't shoehorn it in there. Don't make the solo game something that is legitimately completely different unless it's a great different version of the game, but that rarely happens. So am I more interested in a game if it has a solo mode? Absolutely. There's no question. I'm at least going to say, what is this about? But it's got to be something more than that. If it just says it's got a solo variant, that's not going to be enough. It has to be something that still is compelling to me, still has something that draws my attention, makes me interested. All right, well, man, that hour and 3 minutes flew. It flew, and that's because so many great questions, and I love interacting with all of the fantastic people in the Dice Tower chat. But my time is up. It's been real. It's been fun. But I guess it's time to say goodbye. Happy Friday to everybody. I hope you all enjoy your weekend, and it's time for that outro.